Okay, good morning. Today we're going to be talking about honeycomb. Now the honeycomb stitch is this central stitch here, quite often used on a garter to put the ribbon through, and I'm making a ribbon here which I'm going to put ribbons through. I've got some satin ribbon, so I've got this satin ribbon which I'm going to feed through the holes. So the example we've just looked at, the ribbon, if we look at the honeycomb pattern, I'll get my pointer out. The honeycomb pattern is this cluster here. So what you're doing is you're working that one first, then that one, then that one, then that one, and then we go the other side, and then we work that one together. Now this stitch is done in half stitch, pin, half stitch and a twist. Always make sure you've got at least one twist as you go into the stitch, otherwise it's got open legs and it looks a bit silly. So this is to make a ribbon. So we have a group of honeycomb trailing all the way down the middle of the pattern. Another example is to put your honeycomb in a group of 4, as you can see here. Okay, you can see the holes quite clearly and you can see your stitches. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if we look at that one on the pattern, we can see we've got a cluster of 4 honeycombs with a gap in between. So that's another way of doing honeycomb. Another example of honeycomb, and this is a much finer thread, is to do little triangles. Okay, which is what I've done here. Now these don't have the stitch in between. So if we look at the pattern, you can see they're actually joined together as a cluster. So each one of those is a stitch. I'm trying to pull in as close as I can so you can see them. Again, there's your stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, and the final one. Doesn't matter which side you go down first. So you do the side, and then you come together. Let's have a look at a few more examples. Okay, I don't have patterns for this last lot because these are very old bits for me. So you can see the honeycomb coming down and then going into 3. And that is quite a famous pattern. I think quite a few people have done it with the coloured tulip at the bottom. Now we've got a handkerchief edging, and as you can see we've got little clusters of honeycomb alternating with spiders, and that's a handkerchief edging. Really going back into my past, this is one of the first pieces I made, so it was made in the early 80s, and we've got little honeycomb diamonds here. There we go, all the way down. Last piece, again this is very old now, and I've got honeycomb diamonds on this, so you can see, surrounded by a gimp. And this was done in linen thread. I didn't enjoy doing this because this linen is very friable, and by the end of about an hour you've probably repaired at least one thread. Okay, it's a bit stained because it is very old now, and it hasn't been looked after particularly well. Okay, so that is your honeycomb diamonds, and as you can see on our pattern, here come our honeycomb diamonds down here. So I will go through the stitch with you when I get to that one. Okay, so let's do our first pin. So I'm going to put 1 and 2, 5 and 6 off to the side. So I'm working with 3 and 4, and it's half stitch. Put a pin up in the first pinhole at the top, half stitch and twist. Okay, let's just make this a little bit more secure because it's moving. Right, and we'll go again. So we're now going to do this pinhole here. So it's half stitch, put your pin up, half stitch and a twist. I'm now going to do this one. So I've got my 2 pairs. And I'm going to do half stitch. Use that hand if I don't come across. And put the pin in. Half stitch and a twist. Now I need to do this pinhole here. So that's half stitch, put your pin up, half stitch and a twist. Now we've got to come down the other side, so we'll go back to the one coming off this top stitch here, and we'll go half stitch, put up a pin, half stitch and twist. Okay, now going to do the corner one up here. So it's half stitch, put up your pin, half stitch and a twist. Come back down, and I'm going to do this one. So that's the pair that came off up here and the pair that came off the corner. So it's half stitch, pin, half stitch and twist. And I'm back down into the middle, so I've done both sides now. So I'm going to do the last one. And it's half stitch, pin, half stitch and twist. Okay, let's have a little look at it. So we've finished it now. And we used one of the grounds that we've done. So we used half stitch, pin, half stitch and a twist. According to the Lace Guild, you can use any of the torchon grounds. So you can use half stitch, pin, half stitch, or half stitch, pin, half stitch and a twist. If you look at the book of Bobbin Lace stitches, that talks about using half stitch, twist, pin, half stitch, twist, or doing it in whole stitch. So there are lots of variations. I was taught way back when I first learnt Honeycomb that it was half stitch, pin, half stitch and a twist. And that's the ground I tend to do. So I tend to do half stitch, pin, half stitch, twist. But you can actually do it in any of the grounds that you have been taught. I think if you did it in half stitch, pin, half stitch, it would be quite loose. And I think you'd have to be a bit careful if you were using it as a carrier for ribbon, in either a garter or a ribbon, as this is going to be, or if you were using it to gather your lace. So I think you need a little bit of body to the actual lace. So I think half stitch pin, half stitch would actually be quite loose, and you might have a tendency to pull your lace out of shape. But it would be an interesting discussion point. I might bring that up on the group. Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.